Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Raisha Saigal. On the show tonight, for the first time, the three leaders of China, Russia and North Korea met publicly for the first time, like I mentioned, as laser weapons and nuclear ballistic missiles paraded through Beijing. And on Race to Power, we ask, that is this the rising of a new triangle in international relations? Well, from the United States of America, the U.S. House Committee has released more than 33,000 pages of Jeffrey Epstein files. We'll get you the complete report of that as well on Race to Power tonight. Well, from China, the military parade in the country was the biggest in the country's history. But an even bigger alliance was on full display. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un walking beside their host, China's President Xi Jinping. The smiles, handshakes and conversations marking a deeper moment of discomfort for the West, as it signaled a strengthening new world order. Our next report telling you more on the changing colors of global power corridors. Take a look.
The military parade in China's capital was not the only thing that the world was watching. Three leaders, one photograph has made a loud, clear statement. World order is changing and the West is being challenged. The European Union is calling it a new anti-West bloc. China's President Xi Jinping, flanked by Russia's Vladimir Putin, and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, walked the red carpet, both leaders being the guests of honor at China's 80th World War II anniversary parade. More than 25 international leaders attended the military parade. But it was this trio that captured attention worldwide. Xi seated between Putin and Kim at the viewing gallery. But the West was only looking at this alliance. This is the first time that all three leaders have been seen together in public. The timing of this gathering could not be more critical. Xi's speech at the military parade also caught eyeballs. The Chinese president slammed bullies, but did not name anyone. For the world, it was a veiled jibe at Donald Trump.
History warns us that all humanity rises and falls together. Only when countries across the world treat each other as equals, coexist in peace and support one another, can we uphold common security, eradicate the root cause of war, and prevent the recurrence of historical tragedies. Comrades and friends, the Chinese nation is a great nation that is never intimidated by any bullies and always values independence and strength of our own.
Following the parade, Putin and Kim held a bilateral meeting. The talks replete with deep praise for one another and of military partnership between the two countries. Putin praised Kim for the role of North Korean soldiers in the Russia-Ukraine war. In return, Kim called it North Korea's fraternal duty to help Russia. The bonhomie has not gone down well with US President Donald Trump, who in the past has repeatedly said that he shares a great relationship with all three of the leaders. But in his latest post on Truth Social, Trump's sarcasm was unmissable, conveying regards to Putin and Kim with a cold undertone, accusing China's president of conspiring against the US. But the Kremlin was quick to shut down Trump's latest tirade, saying that nobody has been conspiring against Washington. Russia, China, North Korea on one side, US and other Western countries on the other. The wedge has only widened. Trump's tariff war with trade partners, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, and North Korea's legacy of alienation from the world order, all factors that have escalated an existing divide. But the underlying message is clear. One country or one leader's diktat is not a global benchmark. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And for more on this, joining us in Race to Power is Professor James A. Russell. He's an associate professor at the Department of National Security Affairs in the Naval Postgraduate School. He's joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. Welcome to WION, Professor Russell. First up, of course, talk to us about the messaging and the symbolism coming out of Tianjin with all the three leaders from China, North Korea and Russia standing together. And of course, touch upon if this is the rising of a new triangle in global world order.
Well, if we are to step back from this event, it's a testament to what international relations theorists would refer to as the sort of dynamism of global politics, which is to say that when the system comes out of balance in some kind of way, the system responds. And what we are seeing today is really the end product of, I would say, 10 to 15 years of the mismanagement of international relations by the United States, by successive American presidents. It's easy to blame all this on Donald Trump, and he has been a hapless and incompetent leader that has alienated all of Americans' traditional friends. At the top of the list, of course, is the relationship with India. But the fact is there's been a marked decline in the Oval Office leadership stretching back a couple of decades, which has not paid proper attention to this dynamism. And I point to the Cold War, for example, in which American presidents across Republican and Democratic administrations worked tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, to prevent what we are seeing today, which is the union between Russia and China, with the addition, of course, of North Korea, and with your own Indian Prime Minister kind of on the sidelines in a more neutral but hardly pro-Western sort of position. So there can be no question, as your report has accurately stated, that this is the result of a ham-handed, uninformed and hapless and incompetent approach to international politics by the United States that has helped to create this anti-Western, anti-U.S. union. Trump is simply the icing on the cake, in my opinion, in this matter, but there can be no question, as you, again...
Right, Professor Russell. Well, there seems to be some technical glitch with our guest there. And like he mentioned, he was talking about how he rather said that all this cannot be easily blamed upon the US President Donald Trump with the bonhomie that we witnessed between North Korea, Russia and China. Right, Professor Russell, just wanted to also ask you about the fact that Trump just today also claimed that North Korea, Russia and China are conspiring against the United States of America, which was rubbished by the Kremlin. Just yesterday, Trump also said that China is in need of the United States of America. How do you read all this?
Again, I read this as a hopeless and hapless President Trump who is completely overwhelmed by the geopolitical circumstance that he's facing around the world. This is not a person that is deeply informed about global politics. This is not a leader that has surrounded himself with informed assistants and cabinet secretaries to help him navigate these waters. This is all American policy at home and abroad is being run as if it's some kind of reality TV show. But as, again, demonstrated in your report, this is not a reality TV show at all. This is the result of, again, as I said, 20 years of hapless American leadership and the decline of the quality of the people in the Oval Office. Trump is simply the latest example of this. So the United States has nobody but itself to blame for the bringing together of these two historic rivals in Russia and China. As I said, it's not clear to me how we dig ourselves out of this hole. One would think if you were in the Oval Office, that the first thing you do is make sure the Indians are with the West, are with the United States. And what's Donald Trump doing? He's drop-kicked them out the door. What's another thing he would do? He would ensure that he was tied closely with America's historic partners in Europe. And what has Trump done? He's alienated us. So the United States is today the only country that the United States can really count itself today being closely aligned to is the Israelis, a war, the country that's run by a war criminal, right? That is perpetrating war crimes on a daily basis, killing innocent civilians, going back 24 months. This is the America's, in some respects, only real friend in the world today, and it's because we are paying them. Our tax dollars are enabling their criminal behavior.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION and sharing insights with us.
Thank you.
Well, a U.S. congressional panel has released thousands of documents related to the federal investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. While more than 33,000 pages were made public, the U.S. House Committee's release may not represent the entirety of Epstein files that are in possession of Department of Justice, but it includes flight logs, court filings, jail surveillance footage, redacted records, depositions and memos which add intrigue in a case that has at times driven a wedge between U.S. President Donald Trump and his own party. Democratic Congresswoman Summer Lee said that the only new disclosure was flight logs taken by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which show Epstein's travel to and from his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Among the materials released include at least 8 videos of apparent police interviews with the victims. Several of the interviews are time-stamped from 2005 and 2006. In one of the video clips released, a survivor was quoted as saying that Epstein paid her $350 for a massage when she was just 17 years old. Following the release of Epstein files, several accusers of Epstein and his ex-partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, met with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. In a private meet with Republicans and Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, the survivors urged Congress for more disclosure on this case.
The objective here is not just to uncover, investigate the Epstein evils, but also to ensure that this never happens again, and ultimately to find out why justice has been delayed for these ladies for so very long. It is inexcusable, and it will stop now because the Congress is dialed in on this.
Johnson and members of the Oversight Committee held a closed-door meeting with 6 victims in what many lawmakers described as an emotional and informative meeting. Democrat leader Robert Garcia slammed House GOP for releasing already public Epstein records from Department of Justice, calling for full transparency now.
Donald Trump has the power right now to release all of the Epstein files and documents. Right now. The DOJ is refusing to release the documents that have been subpoenaed. So there is a White House cover-up at the very highest level in getting the American public the information to bring justice to these victims. And I think it's very important for everyone to understand that.
The release came after backbench Republican rebel Thomas Massie forged ahead with a bipartisan effort to force the House to vote on a bill requiring the Justice Department to publish all of its Epstein files within a span of 30 days. Thomas Massie formally introduced his resolution in which he and his Democratic co-sponsor, Representative Ro Khanna, attempted to get the 218 signatures needed to circumvent leadership and force a vote on the House floor. Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide in prison in 2019. The case has caused a political headache for Trump after many of his supporters embraced a slew of conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein. A July Reuters Ipsos poll found that majorities of Americans and of Trump's Republicans believe that the government is hiding details on the case. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is now joining us live from New York. Hi, Susan. Do you think that the release of the Epstein files, 33,000 pages, will perhaps quell the issue of transparency? And how much of the information released is actually new and not old?
Yeah, it's highly unlikely. I do just want to start with breaking news. As we're speaking right now, lawmakers, including Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, is holding a press conference with Jeffrey Epstein victims behind her, demanding the full release of these files and justice for these victims. And she is going broader than that. She's saying not just the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but victims of sexual crime and sexual violence and sexual abuse. So it's very unlikely that this will put a lid on the issue, considering the fact that, as you just noted, Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, Republican Democrat, they are pushing for this bipartisan vote to get through the House, to put a vote and on the floor to have all of those evidence released by the government, despite the fact that President Trump and the White House and also leadership in the House are calling it really a non-starter and something that's not necessary. So we're also seeing Republican infighting regarding this issue about how much of this evidence is new. We are hearing that about 97% of all of this trove of documents that have been released have been already released and has been public knowledge. So about 3% or so is something that's new. And that is not really just, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. So we're going to hear more about this story, especially about this breaking news, the press conference that's happening. Marjorie Taylor Greene is really someone who's loyal to the White House. So for her to come out publicly and challenge the White House on this is very noteworthy.
Right, Susan, thanks for getting us the latest right now. Well, the trial of Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, entered its second day of the final stage today. The second day is expected to be dominated by Bolsonaro's defense, presenting their technical arguments before the five-judge panel. As the former president faces charges of instigating a coup following his loss in the 2022 election to President Lula da Silva, Bolsonaro's lawyer confirmed on Tuesday that his client would not be attending the trial due to his health condition, perhaps kicking off a 5-day procedure of passing judgment in the final stage of the trial. Presiding Judge Alexandra Morales said that Bolsonaro had aimed to install a real dictatorship. The judge opened the landmark Supreme Court session on the first day, casting the case as a defense of democracy in the face of alleged attacks by by the current US President Donald Trump, and vowed not to bend to pressure from Washington, D.C. In deciding the fate of far-right President Donald Trump ally, the trial of Bolsonaro, who claims to be the victim of political persecution, has rather soured the relations with the US President Donald Trump, who slapped a 50% tariff on some Brazilian exports over what he termed a witch hunt targeting his friend. Now, the Trump administration also imposed financial sanctions on Judge Morales. 70-year-old Bolsonaro risks a prison term of 43 years if convicted of conspiring to cling to power after losing 2022 elections to leftist rival Silva, who is now in office. Bolsonaro and his 7 co-accused, which includes former ministers and generals, will learn their fate by September 12th. The trial could see, for the first time in the country's history, a former president being sentenced for a coup in Brazil. The final phase of the trial has been staggered over 5 non-consecutive days, with statements by the judge and each of the 4 other judges, as well as defense lawyers and prosecutors. At the end, the judges will vote whether to convict or acquit. Security around the court has been stepped up as well. And while shifting our focus to India, a family dispute has erupted in political corridors of India's southern state of Telangana. The BRS leader K. Kavita has quit the party a day after being suspended for anti-party activities. Suspended by her own father and party supremo K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Kavita has resigned as the member of Legislative Council and also from the party, claiming that there is a larger conspiracy within BRS against her. Kavita also went on to say that a few leaders of the BRS, and I'm quoting here, hostile towards her.
कभी भी मैंने तेलंगाना के लोगों के खिलाफ काम नहीं किया है, लेकिन आज चंद लोग बीआरएस पार्टी में हमारे आसपास पिताजी के इर्द गिर्द थोड़े लोग जिनके जो वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट है, जिनको अपनी ही फायदा की जो सोच है, ऐसे लोग बीआरएस पार्टी में उनका लीड रोल हो गया है और उनके वजह से उन्होंने मेरे पिताजी के ऊपर, मैं ऐसा मानती हूँ, दबाव बना के मुझे पार्टी से निकालने का काम किया है.
The leader had for some time now been critical of certain party leaders and some of her own family members as well, but she was suspended after accusing her cousins Harish Rao and Santosh Rao of framing her father in an irrigation project scam. For now, Kavita has said that she will not be joining any political party and would decide on a future course of action after speaking with her supporters. She also said that the decision to quit was to prove her identity. The former BRS leader last made headlines when authorities arrested her in connection to the Delhi liquor scam. Last year, Enforcement Directorate and accused K. Kavita of conspiring with top leaders of the Aam Aadmi Party, including former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Kavita was arrested in March 2024 but was released in August last year. In other news that we're tracking a race to power today, political drama is intensifying in Thailand. Opposition and ruling party are jostling for power. Opposition has the numbers to form the next government and ruling party has called for dissolution of the parliament. Earlier this morning, Prime Minister confirmed that he had submitted a royal decree to His Majesty the King, seeking approval to dissolve the House of Representatives. But according to the reports, the Privy Council has returned the document, arguing that the draft was not in line with the procedures. The council reportedly cited a legal dispute, questioning whether a caretaker government even has the authority to propose such a decree. Phuntham has been serving as the interim Prime Minister since last week. That's after Payotongtan Shinawatra was removed from office by the Constitutional Court. The dissolution request came after ruling party failed to secure numbers to sustain the government. The opposition has staked a claim to form the government. The People's Party has backed Anutan Charan Virakul for the next Prime Minister. Bumchaitai Party leader will now have backing of 143 People's Party lawmakers. People's Party support for Anutan is conditional. They have demanded dissolution of parliament within 4 months, making snap elections inevitable in near future. Now, if the king approves dissolution request by the acting prime minister, the countdown to the elections will begin. The Election Commission will have 45 to 60 days to conduct fresh elections. Let's now take a closer look at other political stories making headlines across the globe. Tensions are rising in the Caribbean. Nicaragua's president has sounded alarm over U.S. deploying naval assets near Venezuela, accusing the United States of attempting to overthrow the governments in South America. A day earlier, U.S. military forces struck a small boat allegedly smuggling drugs out of Venezuela. The strike killed 11 people on board. Daniel Ortega accused the Trump administration of trying to intimidate Latin American governments. Counting of votes is underway in Guyana with most of the bailouts counted. President Irfan Ali has effectively secured a second term. The statements of polls show that the ruling PPP has won 8 of the country's 10 electoral districts. President Ali called on people to celebrate democratic values of the country. The final results will be declared by the country's poll body after all the votes are counted. As confidence vote looms in France, the French President Emmanuel Macron has vowed to stand with Prime Minister Bayrou. In the meeting of Council of Ministers, Macron urged the members to mobilize around Bayrou. The Prime Minister faces a critical test in Parliament on September 8th, when he is likely to lose confidence vote, triggering a collapse of yet another government in France.
Est-ce que c'était le dernier, Monsieur le Premier ministre?
And with that, we slip into a very short break. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging